Malia Araya. Let's go. 6'7". She's the reference model for She-Hulk. I'm down.
It's the hands.
It is the... What's up, my know-it-alls? Welcome to She-Hulk. We're going to review She-Hulk Season 1, Episode 3, and it's called The People versus Emil Blonsky. So we're going to start real quick, a little differently, kind of a little conversationally. Overall, what are your thoughts about the episode? We'll get into the recap in just a second.
I liked it. Right. It went by fast. Like,
it did.
Like, when they started the rolling the credits, I'm like, was that just the color?
Yeah, totally. It was 36 minutes long.
It wasn't long. I mean, it was longer than last week's, but
yeah,
I just felt like it went by so much faster.
Yeah. So, man. So you can definitely feel so a lot of people have said that She-Hulk over the series is going to be less and less. It takes a lot of money to make that visual effect. Okay?
Yeah.
To essentially create an entire CGI person takes some effort and money and whatnot. So what they're talking about is that's why like the whole court case, which by the way, we get a court case this episode.
Yeah, because it is a lawyer show.
Like an actual but it's cool because I like the fact that they did it as a superhero court case. So by that superhero court case, I mean, it's literally just Emil Blonsky having his parole hearing. And again, we'll get into all the details in the full recap. But for right now, the idea behind She-Hulk representing him, but you don't see her be She-Hulk once during that part.
Which I was waiting for it to happen during the actual hearing.
Yeah, well, especially when he turned into Abomination.
And yeah.
You know, so
they all freaked out.
Right.
Sure.
And so that was interesting. So there's an A plot and a B plot going on in the series, in this episode rather. Mm-hmm. The A plot has to do with Emil Blonsky and that whole thing. It's literally the titular what's going on. So it's the name of the episode. Mm-hmm. The second storyline has to do with the Dennis Bukowski character, or as I like to call him, misogyny bait. I do, totally.
No, he's horrible.
From the first episode, you're like, this guy's clearly here for one purpose, and that's just to be the misogynist.
To like get a rise out of all the women that are
working totally. There. Okay, and so apparently he has hired GH&K, the company that she works for. It might be GH&P, whatever. Anyways, the attorney's office. He's hiring them to help him sue an Asgardian elf lady, and who apparently he thought he was dating Megan Thee Stallion. You get a Megan Thee Stallion cameo, by the way. Especially
we get a couple cameos.
Yeah. But especially the end, like cuts. It's super funny.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that at the end.
No, totally. And but yeah, so it's so you get these two plots that are going on at the same time, and there is some fourth wall breaking, obviously. I don't mind the episode. I liked the episode. I felt like Jennifer was floundering in this episode, and by that I mean, I felt like the story seems to be carrying Tatiana Maslany and She-Hulk along. They're dragging her. And so, like, the story, I feel like there's too many things happening, and she's still very much in this wide-eyed, I'm sort of shocked, yeah, we're going to react to that and do this thing and whatever else. Like, she seems to be very reactive right now, and I feel like that's not serving the story they're trying to tell as well as it should. Last week's episode was a tether episode, at least is what I called it, but the truth is it wasn't a tether episode. Come to find out now, as some reports have come out, it's more of a dangling participle episode. What do you mean by that? Well, so originally her origin story was not supposed to be in episode 1. Her origin story was actually supposed to be closer to like episode 6. So what happens is when the decision, but they'd already filmed. So the way things work, you start filming literally with these, they're filming in a certain way regardless. Anyway.
Yeah.
They got to, you get to that place and you're like, okay, we need to be able to make this, we have to make this switch. So what happens? You take elements, because if you watch episode 2 technically fits, butted right up to episode 1. Meaning, technically, we should have gotten, if you move the origin story, we probably should have got an hour and a half long episode 1. But what they did was all right, well, we're going to shove this new material into episode 1. Let's cut everything, slide it over. And that's really what they did. And thus we got episode 2, which I thought it was a tether taking us somewhere. The truth is it's what's left after you add the origin story to episode 1. Mm-hmm. A lot of math and a lot of recipe work there. Forgive me. Anyway, so that being said, what we actually get in this episode is a almost episodic episode. It stands on its own. We aren't getting a larger plot point, or are we? What's the thing you noticed that you said is probably part of the deeper? Now we know some of the deeper story.
The part where they were fighting.
So where those guys in these.
Yeah, the part that I noticed, because we looked at the guy came stabbing her with this huge syringe because she is.
No, totally.
And
that's awesome.
she does her Hulk thing.
Yeah.
They run away into the car, and one of them says, the boss is going to be pissed or mad.
Yeah.
Whatever. The boss isn't going to like this. Well,
right.
The question is now,
who's the boss?
Because I feel like that was we always wait till episode 3, and now I think we're going to go at this point.
So basically, in between plot A and plot B, you have this little alleyway that is our actual, I believe, the overarching season plot of someone trying to essentially get Jennifer's blood. Now, it's funny. We were talking. It's not going to help anybody. Because at the end of the day, Bruce already qualified in the first episode. The only thing that makes him and her special is that they have an enzyme in their body, something in their DNA, that helps them process and metabolize, if you will, gamma radiation. So it's like, okay, so you want her blood for what? Just to experiment? Well, you want to clone her? I could totally, you know what? I can see the MCU cloning. Yeah. I could see them clone it, and somehow we get Red She-Hulk. So Red She-Hulk is a concept that followed Red Hulk. Red Hulk in the comic books. There's different types of Hulk. Gray Hulk, Green Hulk, Smart Hulk, based on She-Hulk, Smug Hulk. Anyway, and I love that so much. But so the idea is, so who knows? They may clone her and do something and have her fight herself, which is very Marvel. Having heroes fight their own doppelganger.
I didn't know there was that many Hulks. First of all,
no, totally. And or we might even get a more aggressive, because if they clone her, then there wouldn't be all that baggage that is Jennifer Walters. So you see a fully Hulk She-Hulk clone. So it's basically like big muscular green, or like if without the controlling Jennifer Walters stuff. You get this really aggressive, savage.
Maybe I was like we had the Hulk before.
Yes, yeah.
The Bruce Banner type
but it's
Hulk.
Savage She-Hulk.
Yeah.
You get so she's mindless because there will be no Jennifer personality keeping it under control. So that'll be interesting. Again, that's all speculation. By all means, comment below. Let me know your thoughts about what I just said, because I think that's
I want to know too.
Right? That'd be cool. But so what didn't work for you?
I think the only thing that didn't work for me was I guess maybe towards the end there were 3. I really liked our B plot. That was fun.
Sure.
That was a lot. I liked that.
Well, I like the fact we got to see Pug more, because we know we're learning who all the new. Getting. Eventually, she's going to be part of an actual legal team. My hope is, as much as I love Jessica Gao and I think she's done a wonderful job putting the show together, I would really love more of a seasoned, experienced hand with legal dramas. Because I would actually love to see.
We like legal dramas as it is. So.
Not just that, but give me real superhero cases where they're dealing with, you know what I mean, where you suddenly find yourself. This is where you show me people suing a superhero. You know what I mean? Someone suing, someone suing them.
What's the term I'm looking for? Not a
like a super powered person.
Not a super powered person.
I'd love to see someone bring up, have someone try to bring Captain America up on a war crime or something. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Where or anything. Just my point is, I mean, it's not real, but you get the idea being someone who's trying to say, hey, listen, we have every right to have this argument or discussion anyway. And now you have She-Hulk having to represent Steve Rogers or some Steve Rogers estate or something.
Imagine her having to defend Steve Rogers,
or not even that. Have what's his name? Have Sam have to show up.
Oh yeah.
Because he's Captain America. So if it's the people versus Captain America, then she has to defend Captain America. And he's like, look, I was the one who, I'm currently holding the mantle, but I'm not the guy. My point is, I'm over here writing another show. Forgive me. But the idea is, I
live with this.
It's force of habit. It's totally force of habit. And so, but I just think it'd be interesting, having watched, I consumed all of Boston Legal, The Practice. You love NCIS and those the Blacklist, shows like that, things that are actual procedural roles. so far, She-Hulk is not an actual procedural. It is dressed up as one and pretending to be one, but it is really just a Marvel superhero show, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I think if you actually add, because even Ally McBeal, that everyone's kind of compared it to.
Oh yeah.
Even Ally McBeal had those things, but Jessica Gow's quoted as saying, at least last week I think we talked about it. She's quoted as saying that she didn't want to, they were all in the writers' room and realized none of them knew how to write procedural courtroom drama, and I'm like, well, why not get writers who do? Mm-hmm. And that's not me. Agree, yeah. That doesn't mean criticizing you should have better writers. I'm just saying if you're going to do a thing.
If you're going to set a story somewhere,
right,
doing something,
you probably should.
I mean, your medical dramas.
Absolutely.
They rely on doctor expertise and
absolutely.
Stuff like that.
Heck yeah,
whether they're writers or not, but they do go.
And I think that's important. I think being able to tell the story from where it lands. So I'd love to eventually see She-Hulk shift more to that, especially because in the comic books they've done a really good job putting her in scenarios where you have to where it's courtroom, it's real, even in the comic books. And so I feel like there's a world in which we can get that show eventually, or at least give us a little more. Because I liked it.
This is the first time we're seeing her do something in the courtroom, and
correct.
She isn't exactly a lawyer doing it in the courtroom this time around.
Oh yeah, so she comes over in the B plot.
Yeah, we don't. She's not lawyering, for lack of a better word. She's not lawyering. She's actually a witness for the B plot.
Yeah, for Dennis. So it's funny. So they bring her in because Dennis is suing this Asgardian shape-shifting elf lady, who apparently dressed up as Megan Thee Stallion, made her look like that. And so he thought, and everyone's looking at him like he's crazy. So they have to get over the fact that nobody likes him. Mm-hmm. And so they bring Jennifer and they lean into it. And Pug is like, hey man, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially the idea is you don't like him. You can speak to the fact that you believe 100% he would actually believe this thing. So they call her up, and she's like, "Oh yeah,
she had no problem doing it."
Just literally lays out a case for the fact that he's clearly a narcissist, self-indulgent. At one point she says, "He once said he was a New York 10 and an LA 11," and I'm like, bro.
Isn't that when he stood up and objected?
Yeah, totally.
He's not the lawyer,
and it's his witness.
That was the funny part.
Bro. But yeah, no, he's, and so it's really good. I liked that he, so then she's like, yeah, he would absolutely believe that. He 100% believe it because he thinks he's God's gift, legit.
Legit.
He's the height of male privilege. And I was like, right on, man. I'll go with this.
Wow, that was good. Height of male privilege.
Oh, totally. This guy is too much. Too much. But, yeah, man. So again, with that whole idea in place, is there anything else you want to bring up? Anything else with the episode that really stood out for you? I like the continued. And you get the end credit scene after the end credits, which is apparently Megan Thee Stallion has hired She-Hulk to be her new attorney, and so they're so you see the head guy Holloway, rather he's walking toward her office and he stops because you see Megan Thee Stallion and She-Hulk dancing. At one point She-Hulk's basically twerking, and I thought twerking. It was so funny. I was like, right on, man. Good job. No, good job.
No, it was funny. I mean, it was good.
So going back a little bit back to the court case, because right now that whole thing we just talked about is literally the B plot. So the court case with Emil Blonsky is exactly what the premise that we thought about last week at the end, which is the news has revealed there's footage from the Shang-Chi fight where Abomination and Wong were there. Wong cameos in this episode, which is great. You get that one Jennifer Walters part where she is driving and she kind of breaks the fourth wall and she's like, yeah, I don't want you guys worried and thinking this is just a cameo show. Well, except for Bruce and Blonsky. And of course Wong. And so you're like, okay, great.
And then she's like, whatever.
Yeah. So he shows up. And he's like, hey, you called this and that. And he's willing to testify for Blonsky. Yeah, totally doing his little his Doctor Strange thing. I love it. And so he's very much like, hey, I'll go ahead and testify. So Jennifer's got to go before this parole committee, who are all obviously very. They see him as very sketchy, and so they're like, well, what about you becoming Abomination? This and that. And he's apparently done the full namaste, I'm calm thing, and he can control his transformations, and he proves that by changing into the Abomination. Everyone kind of irrationally freaks out. I say irrationally because if you can't keep a prisoner like him secure, Why is he in jail? Like, what are you doing? I don't understand. So for me, I get they want to be like, oh, he's turning into the thing, abomination. But it was a little over the top.
It was a bit like the woman with the one guy that was being a real piece of work. There's always one on that parole board.
Totally.
Was hiding behind the chair of a woman.
That's right. He climbed behind a chair and like, bro. Jeez.
One of the funny things was before he turned into the abomination, all the witnesses that came up. Mm-hmm. Those were funny, especially the police car that went to him for marital advice.
Yeah, so apparently he's
been
helping people and stuff in prison, and yeah, it's great. He has apparently eight soulmates.
I didn't know we could have 8.
He's like, I have finally found the 8ths of my soul. I was like, okay, bro, right on, man. But yeah, and so he wins his freedom. Yeah. She makes it a compelling case to the fact that he had no control over the fact he was leaving, this and that. We'll see what happens. I hope that this is genuine. Who knows? We may get him on the Thunderbolts too, because they're gonna need a strong man on the Thunderbolts, because that's coming. We know that from Comic-Con. I'm really excited for D23. D23 is going to determine.
When is that?
D23 for 2022 is going to be on September 9th.
Oh, that's
the 11th.
Yeah.
Yes. So next week, we're talking next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Well, through the weekend, whatever. But starting next Thursday, they're gonna start announcing things. I believe we're gonna get all kinds of really cool announcements having to do with the MCU. I think we're gonna get Fantastic Four. I think we're gonna get either a cast announcement or at the very least some sort of a premise having to do with it. And then I think we're gonna also get more details about sort of where a lot of these other new shows are going. The one thing they've made very clear is that the Marvel MCU is in a phase where it's specifically, this was about expanding the storytelling. So we've all been. I lent my voice to this argument. Where are we going? But this time before in the last 20 some odd years, or 11 years, we knew Thanos was the bad guy. Were blah blah blah. What were they doing? And we were confused because I'm like, I thought we saw Kang and Loki, but now we haven't seen any indication of him again, and we weren't supposed to. This entire phase has been about expanding the universe and world building for the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the future. So we now know Asgardians live on Earth. We now know that Jennifer Walters exists and that She-Hulk is a thing. And we now know Matt Murdock is going to be Daredevil and he's this. All these characters and stuff exist in the world, and that's what it's for. It's for getting Kamala Khan in. It's for getting the new. I believe they're building to a new Avengers. Or my daughter, Baby Nota, says she speculates that they're building to Dark Avengers. I do agree. I think they are building to Dark Avengers or some MCU version of Dark Avengers. So yeah. Yeah,
and we know that we know that they were, because we started seeing it with Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes. Yeah, with Val recruiting U.S. agent and what's her name? Natasha's sister. I can't remember her name right a second. Anyway, the idea being that I love her, by the way. Oh yeah. Florence Pugh.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, man, that's there you go.
Just wait. I have a question.
Yeah.
Where would She-Hulk then fall into, or did I miss this already? Because I know you explained it to me a couple times already. Where does she fall? Is it just one of those I don't want to say feeder stories, but like one of those just to introduce? Or introduce the villain that we now know exists? Or do we not know yet?
So, okay. I don't believe She-Hulk lives within the framework of Kang and what's coming.
Okay.
I do believe so in the comic book, She-Hulk's never been or never had a long-standing and long-running title of her own.
Okay.
People might argue with me, but because I know there were some good runs, and I know she's consistently had a thing. But if you really look at it, there's really never been a Batman's got the Dark Knight, Superman's got the Man of Steel, all these different titles that have been around legitimately as that title forever. She-Hulk's really not had that. There's the John Byrne run. There's the Dan Slott run. There are several different runs of She-Hulk that have existed. And so at the end of the day, she's always been a connective tissue character because she's clearly she's intelligent. She's an attorney. So she's been to school. She's educated. Then you add the natural her Hulk strength and all that. And I feel like when you get the character of She-Hulk, you are creating a connective tissue for, I believe she would be what connects your street level, like Daredevil, to your eventual cosmic superheroes like the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and the like.
Oh, okay.
So she would be the one who has both friends over to a barbecue. You know what I'm saying? She's
Okay,
as an example.
Yeah.
She's the connective tissue. So I think that we will get reactions to what's happening in She-Hulk.
Okay, that makes sense.
So meaning I bet you money it's not. Correction, I guarantee you, out of all these projects, they have filmed bits and pieces that are going to eventually end up in the Kang Dynasty, or something having to do with time and manipulation of time, where you'll get like a big thing happening and they'll flash to Daredevil on a rooftop looking up, or She-Hulk standing up at her desk with her person. All these people we know. Kamala Khan in high school looking at the screen. You know, Tom Holland as Spider-Man with a hat on because or taking pictures of himself for the Daily Bugle. My point is, all these you're gonna get. It makes it important when something major happens, and now you see all these flashes of people throughout this thing, and you're like, oh wow, this is crazy, and it creates this universe that's more lived in. Yeah.
It's not a secret anymore, especially after the invade on New York.
That's right.
On New York.
That's right.
I mean, everything, the world just turned upside down.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And then of course we have Hawkeye and them coming back out because you find out Haley Steinfeld's back in the MCU. Could be a film, could be a series sequel. We'll find out soon. But yeah, so is there anything else we're missing? I think
Can we discuss her hands?
So She-Hulk suffers from, I believe,
she has
hardcore
the
man
biggest hands.
Yeah.
They don't fit her arms, let alone the rest of her. I understand she is a Hulk, and she should have.
It's literally
like
my giant hand on your little teeny body.
Now flip it.
It's like, hello.
Yeah, I feel like it should just be.
It's rough.
So that's. But then you told me that the model was.
So I think, and I could be way wrong. Sometimes you take the reference because they have a reference model on set. I was talking about it. Matter of fact, I think you guys caught that when we first started recording.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And she's 6'7". She's literally the dimensions that She-Hulk would be, and then she wears outfits and stuff on set as a reference model. And so sometimes VFX artists, at least the ones I know, once in a while they'll take the reference model like that and literally model over it. So my feeling is there could very well be a little bit of the stand-in model in the hands, while Tatiana Maslany's in the face, and obviously the body work. But I'm just like, man, because you're right.
It's funny because I have
she's talking.
Why is her hand so big? I'm like,
she's She-Hulk and she's talking, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a big old hand. Yeah, man. I totally agree.
And being the woman in this conversation, I really didn't like her lawyer outfit that she was wearing this time around. It was she had her hair up, and it was very,
it felt
like it
lazy.
could have been like Bruce Banner.
It did. It's like,
and then toss a tie on.
How did She-Hulk find an outfit that looks like her dad? It was her dad's suit. Like, seriously, I'm with you. I'm like, you should, even if you were normal size,
you string of pearls on the girl.
Anything, you know. But yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Now you know. And if knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. Know-it-all index for this week. What's yours? And I'll tell you mine.
I laughed a lot, so 9.
Really?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Especially at the hands.
So I went into I'm gonna do something I normally hate that when people do, which is I'm gonna judge this based on the merit of the show I thought I was gonna get for this episode. So I thought I was gonna get something that connected more intentionally with the previous episodes. We didn't. We got essentially, like I said, what should have been the second episode worth of stuff because of all the moving of the origin story. Anyway, it felt a little messy. And it felt like I could clearly see someone had assembled a puzzle out of this episode. I'm okay with it. It didn't detract from the story. In fact, I guarantee you there's a quick little scene where Pug comes to the bar, and Jen and her assistant are there, and she goes, connecting the A and B plot. And you're like, okay, I get it. And I feel like that was probably a recut after the move of the origin story. I feel like they had to do something to piece those pieces together, and they probably had they got those 3 actors and were like, can we guys real fast? I just want you to literally have to script it. You just sit in, you slide into the scene, and you say your thing, your bit about what's going on with your case. You say the thing and to them, and done. And we're like, okay. Because it felt very clunky. So the whole episode for me felt, story-wise, ham-fisted. Each of the pieces were good.
Okay.
And the story had better acting than episode 1. So everyone clearly is into their own mode, especially the guy who plays Dennis Bukowski.
Yes.
I liked him a lot.
What's
I thought
his
he
name
was,
again?
Literally, you asked the question. She's like, what's his name one more time? No, it's right here.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It's right here. Drew
Matthews.
Yeah, Drew Matthews plays Dennis Bukowski. And so I liked him. I believed it better. Versus the first episode, it felt really contrived.
It really did. You're right. Yeah. I remember that. Him like, this isn't...
Like, he literally felt like jerky man lawyer to be jerky man lawyer.
Yeah.
Then you have this episode and you go, oh, cool. He's selling the personality now and the circumstance, whatever. Anyways, all that long story having been said, I wasn't as happy with this episode as I wanted to be. I'm still with the story. I still love She-Hulk. I'm still here for the ride. I'm going to give this episode a 6 out of 10.
I was at least thinking 7.
So when she was on an interview of some kind as She-Hulk, and the guy in the news was talking to her, it felt like he was talking to a fake person. It felt like he was talking to a CGI character, not a person. And so again, those little elements started to really take me out of it. And then the stuck together version of how I felt the story pieces had to be rejiggered in order to match what's going on.
Let me ask you something, since you said that about the whole newscast.
Yeah.
Do you think it was the acting that made it look like, oh, he's just talking to a CGI person? Or was it supposed to be like that because she was on Citizen News, and after the break it was, She-Hulk talks about her health and exercise and diet routine, and she's even like, what?
So it's funny, those bits actually worked for me. Mm-hmm. Those little tidbits. It's literally her head in the box talking and being like, wait, what? What's going blah blah blah? It just felt it felt like he was talking to a CGI character, and you knew.
Okay.
And it almost felt like it was like the previs version, which is not really how I mean it. Previs is actually very flat. But what I mean by previs is, if nowadays with the technology they have, you can film in the camera and the director can physically see. He doesn't see Tatiana Maslany. He sees a version of She-Hulk in her She-Hulk form for how you frame up, because they have to frame to the character she's going to be, not the tiny person she actually is in real life. So they have to see that stuff.
Okay.
I felt like, and that, by the way, is very nice looking quality in camera. But that's what that scene looked like.
Okay, I understand what you're saying then.
Right.
Okay.
And so so to me it felt fake.
I can't wait to find out who the boss is.
Me too. I want to know what their deal is.
Any speculation of who it could be?
So She-Hulk's had several villains. I don't know. I think we're gonna get Titania as a not as a main villain, but as a muscle to the main villain, because that whoever the main boss is gonna be like, hey, aren't you pissed off? She punched you and blah blah blah. Because Titania, when she doesn't underestimate She-Hulk, is actually a very, very good foe. She's very good because she's essentially the counterbalance. She's muscle, she's strength. She can take her fisticuffs hand to hand, but she has to not take her for granted. And I believe that was a good picture of what she didn't expect someone to suddenly be there strong enough to knock her down like that, because she can bust through walls. Anyways, so yeah. So comment below. Let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear your opinions on the She-Hulk episode 3. So yeah, man. Never forget.
Everyone loves a know-it-all.
I love you. I always forget on her. I'll talk to you guys next week. We will talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.